Good morning. So yes, I am Jess Parker. I am an engineering manager for a company called LaunchWard. We are a tech consultancy, and I'm here visiting you from Seattle. This is my first time in Fargo, so if you have recommendations, I'm all ears because I'm holed up in a hotel and I got DoorDash last night. So I'm ready to get out and see a little bit about what this beautiful city has to offer. But today we're gonna dive into the concept of Project Aristotle and how Google leveraged big data to crack how to build better teams. Show of hands, who has heard of Project Aristotle before? Okay, I've got some hands. Okay, good. So what makes, do I have a clicker, by the way? Or no? Yes? Oh, there it is. No, you're good. Okay, so what makes a successful team at Google? This was in 2012, and basically Google said, we thrive on big data. We have these inconsistencies. Some of our teams have brilliant minds, and they are underperforming, whereas we have what we would consider mid-level or more moderately skilled developers, unexpected teams, and they are thriving, they are crushing it. How can we leverage data and understand psychology so that we can craft better teams, better workplaces, more performance, more productivity? So Google's people operations team was tasked with optimizing team dynamic. They brought in psychologists, sociologists, and statisticians, and they analyzed over 180 teams company-wide. So they analyzed marketing teams, they analyzed developer teams, they analyzed sales teams, the whole gambit. Now, how did they do this? They, we'll go to the next slide, but basically they even did things like monitoring where they sat for lunch, how long they sat together. They looked at, do people hang out after work? They looked at how do they talk to each other? Things like that. So the hypothesis going into this, with all of these scientists, international scientists, they considered this a no-brainer. If you have people with high IQs, if you have people with positive, sort of outgoing, collaborative personalities, and people with high technical skills, you are going to get the output you're looking for. That was the hypothesis. And it makes sense. Logically, if you step back, if you have intelligent people who are fun to be around, and they are skilled at what they do, why wouldn't there be success? So again, they met with the teams, they conducted surveys, they did feedback loops, they looked at performance reviews. They broke this down by individual contributions, but also the team contribution. So they looked at the results of the team, but also the metrics of the individual. They also kind of wondered, is there a correlation between teams working better if they're all introverts? Teams working better if they're all extroverts? I know that in coding, throughout my career, I've worked with a lot of introverts. I am extroverted at work, and I know that energy for a lot of introverts, when they first meet me, they're like, okay, I don't want to go into a meeting with her, I'm done, I want to go code, you know? So that's fine, but how do we look at the social bonding of a team as far as in the original hypothesis? Are these people that relate to each other outside of work? Are they all rock climbers? Are they all musicians? What do they have in common that we can point to if we did a plot chart and say, yes, this is it, this is the secret? So the original hypothesis, when it came to IQ, personality, and technical skill, here is what every team had in common. Nothing. And also nothing in green. Okay, so when you have the greatest sociological minds and psychological minds, these are professionals at the height. I mean, Google spent, it's never been released, but Google spent money on this. So when you have these people come in with a hypothesis and they are so strong in that belief, and that belief becomes dramatically unfounded, where do you go from there? How do you figure out what's next? So then they took a step back from the who. They took a step back from who is on the team to look at what is the team. What is the core foundation that makes up these consistently successful teams? I have been building teams for 20 years. I'm very passionate about this topic. The number one factor in team success was the ability to take risks and the ability to fail without shame or fear. I want everybody to sit with that. Show of hands. How many of you have made a mistake at work? Yeah, right. Cool. Production goes down, panic, right? Production goes down, I've got automations in the background where my Slack is lighting up, right? So, you've all made mistakes at work. Show of hands. How many of you have had a boss or a supervisor or someone on your team that immediately responded with a hostile response or a blame response? Yeah. When you develop cultures of shame and fear around mistakes, guess what? The mistakes aren't going to go away. People still make mistakes. They just don't tell you about them. Do you think that I want a junior developer to come to me and say, I messed up? Can you help me? Or do you think I want to hear from a client on a Sunday afternoon? I can tell you which one I want to hear from. And it's the junior developer who feels comfortable enough to come to me and say, I need help, I'm learning, how can I fix this? And I'm going to say, let me fix it so that the pressure is off you. Let me fix it in the immediate. And then we're going to do a retrospective, and you're going to learn. You're going to be able to do this next time. That's growth. That's progress. That's investing in the company. That is me being a manager that is responsible for making people profitable for the company while they work for me, and profitable for themselves when they choose to move on. That is my goal. I would love for you to work for me for 20 years. I would love for you to want to work for me for 20 years. But if you move on, I want you to get top dollar. I want you to be equipped. I want you to brag about the paycheck and the title change. And that happens when you bring mistakes to me and you get that deeper learning. What do we call this? Anybody have any guesses? The ability, yes. Boom, psychological safety. You guys are on fire. Yes. Psychological safety. The ability, and I know that there's a lot of talk about safe spaces in our culture today. It's not the same. Psychological safety means we have developed a culture where risk-taking, informed risk-taking is okay. We understand software development is collaborative. It's also iterative. Your code is going to fail, especially while you're learning, more than it's going to work. Your code is going to fail more than it works. Bugs make you better. And I think that a lot of developers forget that along the way. Oh no, it's early. Audience participation. Real quickly, when it comes to risk-taking, especially, raise your hand if you are involved in a business or in a managerial position. I want to hear from you folks in particular. When it comes to risk-taking, when it comes to the ability for a developer or someone on your team to say, I tried something, even if it didn't work, what benefit do you have from that? What does that lead to? Oh my gosh, so the answer is, when we can step outside of that, if we've been doing the status quo and we try something new, did it not work? Okay, well then maybe what we're doing is the right way. Did it work? Maybe what we're doing is actually costing us money. Maybe what we're doing isn't optimized. Spoiler alert, the people who ask that question the most are junior developers. And I have the data to back it up. Junior developers ask me why. If you think back to the Looney Tunes, it's like the little duck walking around behind you sometimes, saying, why do you do this? Why is it this way? And even before I moved to tech, when I was a manager back in the day, I thought, whew, there's a lot of questions, a lot of pressure. Okay, whew, shake it off. But now I'm like, I want to have that answer. I want to be the type of manager that says, this is the answer now, but what do you have in mind? I want to hear your idea. What have you done at a different company? Because I never want to create teams that are nothing but echo chambers. And the way that you do that is by allowing risk-taking, informed risk-taking, without fear or shame. So, your homework. How do you foster psychological safety in 2025? I've broken this down by leaders. You're going to fail visibly. I'm also business-minded. Publicly traded companies, I don't want you on X or Facebook saying production went down because I did this and your shares tank. That's not the kind of failing I'm talking about. If you try something and it didn't work, talk about it. Break it down. Use it as a teachable moment. I fail in front of my team and I make it so that it's, hey, this didn't work out, or we tried this, or we learned about a breaking change that happened. A great example is AWS had an Ubuntu version 20 breaking change, and I didn't account for it. I didn't think about it. I didn't have a check in my own code that I built for that. So did I come to my team and say, it failed? Let's talk about it. How do we not do this again? What did we learn here? Absolutely, I did. Are those systems stronger because we had that conversation? Yes. So you're going to fail visibly. You're going to encourage team microcultures. Allow teams to have their own languages. If you have a spouse or a partner, chances are you have weird words for stuff. It happens, right? If you have a pet, you've got that weird little pet language. Teams at work do the exact same thing. They develop microcultures. Encourage it. It's different from a clique. These are healthier. But step out. If you have hired someone to lead a team, trust them to lead the team. Do not put people in that position you don't trust. There's accountability, absolutely. I run a tight ship. I have standards. I'm tough. But do I allow my people the space to work and do their best work? Yes, it's a balance. Practice radical candor. I don't have time to go into that today. The whole idea of it is you can be critical while also being kind. I can give you critical feedback. I don't have to be mean about it. I'm going to make sure you're ready to take it. I'm going to check in with you. I'm going to give you, anytime I have to give critical feedback, I clear an hour after that person's schedule. And I tell them, this next hour is yours. You want to go play Apex Legends? Go play video games. You need to breathe? You want to order DoorDash? I'll get it for you. You just had a tough talk. We're humans in a human business. Define roles and standards. Make sure your people know where to get help. If you haven't defined roles in writing where people know who is responsible for what, you're letting your teams down. In a big way. In a big way. Clear and timely feedback. Obviously, give people the chance to course correct. If a developer comes into a performance review with me and they are surprised by the results, I failed. If a developer comes to me for a performance review and they are surprised by anything I have to say, that is a failure on my part, because I did not provide timely feedback. We're going to whip through this last part, I promise. Okay, students, deliver reliably. Be someone your team can count on. Be the developer your team can count on. Does that mean being a hero? Absolutely not. Does that mean being there when you are needed? Does that mean performing at the level or above the level that you are expected? Yes. Be someone others can count on. Remove ego. Oh my gosh, this was a big one for me. This was a big one for me because I am someone who identifies so strongly with my job, so strongly with what I'm passionate about. It was really hard for me when I started in tech, when my code wasn't working, to remove myself from the situation and say, not my code isn't working, the code isn't working. And it's such a subtle change, but let me tell you, when you talk to people and say, not your code broke it, hey, the code is broken. Again, we're removing that blame. Don't get blame either. Okay, that's a thing, don't do it. All right, practice radical candor, that's on you guys too. It's a double-sided thing. Be curious, not judgmental. I had to throw Ted Lasso in here. I just had to. I want you, I was talking to, hands up in the back. Yes, last mile folks, yes. I was talking to last mile folks earlier about the 4 C's that I hire for. If you come to me for an interview, I look for curiosity, character, collaboration, and communication. It's that simple and that hard. Curiosity, character, communication, collaboration. I want you to be curious. If you bring me a boot camp project and that's all you built in boot camp, I'm gonna say, what did you add to it? What did you learn? If you didn't add on to it, if you're not still building, there are a lot of curious developers out there who are. You have to be competitive. I want you to want to learn. Because on the other hand, on the other side, I'm fighting for you to get educational funding. I'm fighting for you to get continuing ed credit. I'm fighting for you to get resources. I need someone who's going to use them. All hands for an SOS. You guys can do this starting tomorrow. If a team has a problem, all hands in. It's a very easy way to build team loyalty. It's a very easy way to build collaboration. End with gratitude. If you join my team, if you give me critical feedback, I'm gonna thank you for it. I'm gonna thank you for it because you could have fired me, or you could have gone to my boss, or you could have gone behind my back. If you're a client, or you're someone working with me, or if you're a team member that reports to me and you have the courage and the consideration to bring me critical feedback and allow me to course correct, allow me to be a part of that feedback loop, I'm going to thank you for it. If a teammate brings something to you, I want you to start thanking. End the call with a thank you. They could have taken it to somebody else, but they took it to you. That's opportunity. That's awesome. It's a very easy way to make a change, and it'll do a lot of good for the team. So that's it. That's how Google cracked the code. Ended up with better teams. I think that this is going to change in the future as far as generational standards and generational trends, but overall, I think it's held up pretty well.